What's up, YouTubers? It's me, Johnny, again. I'm coming to you from Sheila, Guatemala. Anyhow, tonight I would like to say a few words about the quality of life in Mexico as opposed to Guatemala if you're going to live here as a tourist or if you're going to live here long term as an expat. I would say, just in general, the infrastructure is a lot better in Mexico, and it's actually cheaper in Mexico. You can get a pretty nice hotel in DF for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bucks if you're at the backpacker end. And that would include a private bathroom, hot water, a TV, and Wi-Fi. And there's a lot of these hotels all over Mexico City. Now you compare that to Guatemala City, you'll get a hotel the size of a coffin for like 8 bucks. Shared bathroom with really cold water and bed bugs to keep you company at night. And you probably have a light bulb in your room that don't work, so you'll be scraping around in the dark trying to figure out how to get in and out of your room, and you have to share a bathroom for that. To move up to move up to a room with a private bath is going to cost you 25 bucks, $25, and you're going to be in the bad side of town. Excuse me. And I would say there's a reason why they call Mexico City the Paris of Latin America. It's a very beautiful city. The cost of living is really cheap compared to North America, to the United States and North America or Canada. And they have world-class museums, world-class restaurants, bakeries. Everything is very affordable there. When you contrast that with Guatemala, the infrastructure is not too good. Transportation can be kind of slow. The highways aren't too good, so you don't get there really fast, even if you're on a first-class bus or any kind of private transportation. Just in general, you're not going to save much money by living in Guatemala. And the difference is in Mexico, all over Mexico, whether you're talking about DFA or any of the coastal areas like Mazatlan, Acapulco, or any of the colonial towns, you get a really, really high quality of life for a fraction of the cost in the States. And going to Guatemala won't really save you too much money. And to me, the biggest difference is the infrastructure is not as good. Now, contrast something different. In Guatemala, the police will never bother you. At least they never bothered me. I think you could live here 20 years and they never ask to see your passport. Now, I'm not really sure if that's the same in Mexico. I've been there a long time, and in my 20s, they used to harass me a lot by asking me for my ID and my passport, but that just happens every now and again when I'm there. Another difference is with the quetzale, or the quetzal. It's been pretty stable against the dollar for the last 15 years. So as the cost of living goes up, as they inflate the money supply, there's not a devaluation like recently you've seen with the Mexican peso that's come down against the dollar quite a bit. So no matter how much prices rise in Mexico, you can still, like I said, at the low end, get a hotel for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bucks. And when I say that, I mean you can get that in a colonial town. You can get that in Mazatlan on the coast. You can get fairly affordable rentals in Acapulco as long as you get them in the summertime. Now they're going to cost you $800 to $1,200 a month if you get them right now, because it's like the high season. But those exact same apartments that are 1 block from the beach in the nice end of town can be had for $200 or 2 or 300 in between there, if you're willing to sign at least 6 months or a year, depending on your negotiation skills and time of year and what the state of the economy is. As it gets worse, the opportunities are becoming more and more to get a long-term rental there really dirt cheap. Another contrast that's kind of not related, or kind of related to infrastructure, is in Guatemala, you just don't have high quality food and bakeries and restaurants and bars like you would in Mexico. So you have the high prices, or prices that are similar to Mexico, but the quality is half as good. So like if you go into a bar or restaurant, the food is here in Guatemala just is not that good for what you're really paying. In fact, the portions of your place can be like half as much as it'd be in Mexico for about the same price. So you can pay 4 or 5 bucks for a plate of food, and it's really not that great. And with the indigenous culture here and the influence of the indigenous culture, you get a lot of, how can I put it, the opposite of picante, really cold food. They don't really care for salsas like you would get in Mexico. Another thing that'd be cool, this cool about Guatemala, comparable to Mexico, is it's way easier to get a residency here. You can just keep coming across the border if you don't really want a legal residency, but in Guatemala, it's really easy and cheap to get a residency. Just basically paying a lawyer or a fixer or however you want to go about it. And so you become a resident and then eventually get permanent residency and then a passport if that's what you want. Another cool thing is banking and having a low profile corporate account is very, very easy here. And that's another advantage of Guatemala compared to Mexico. And Guatemala is off the radar of Uncle Sam, so if you need to stash some cash and you need electronic bookkeeping entries in US dollars, you want to keep that off your name. That's fairly easy to do here. Whereas in Mexico, you might be able to do it, and I think you actually can do it, but you have to have a much bigger bank account than what I have. Another benefit of Guatemala is the indigenous culture. I just got done saying how it can be disadvantaged, but where it can be an advantage is when you're in the indigenous community, it's like you're within a country. So if for whatever reason, if you have some kind of legal issue or problem, like I seem to run into with a lot of gringos here, you can live in the mountain towns or you can live in the indigenous communities and pretty much you don't need a visa. You can run a business. You don't need any special permission. It's just if you want to start a bar, buy your booze, open up your bar, and that's it. Maybe pay a few bribes at that, but probably you don't even have to do that. So with the indigenous culture here, it's really easy to lay low if that's what you want, like in the smaller communities. Whereas in Mexico, that may be harder. I don't know, but one of the disadvantages of Mexico is they have a closer relationship to Big Brother in the United States. So if you need to keep a lower profile, it's a little bit more difficult in Mexico. As a matter of fact, there are places in Mexico now that they want your ID, they want your social security number, and they want to run a credit check on you just to rent you an overpriced apartment, which I don't really get. But apparently more and more Mexicans are doing that. I don't know if that's push from Uncle Sam or that's just dealing with a lot of deadbeat foreigners. But there it is. You might have to show your ID and your social security number and have a credit check done if you want to get a rental in Mexico now. So like overall, my opinion is if you want like a high standard of living and good quality of life and infrastructure, first world infrastructure at a fraction of the cost of the U.S. or Europe, especially Europe, you can't really beat Mexico. It's really a beautiful country. There's a reason why they call LDF the Paris of Latin America, because it really is gorgeous. The architecture is beautiful. It has beautiful buildings everywhere. The history is really fantastic to study. The people are really gracious and kind, and of course the women are very attractive. Another advantage is, let me think now. It's easy to get lost in some of the bigger cities. They just have more of a European outlook on life. So if you're trying to blend in and you're American or European, it's much easier to do in Mexico. And if you're looking for a first-class infrastructure, you just can't beat it. And where Guatemala can kind of shine is it's really easy to fade into the woodwork if you want to. They're not as cozy to Uncle Sam as, say, Mexico is. And it's really simple, really easy to start a business. It's really easy to set up some low-profile banking if you wish to do that. It's really easy to get residency if you wish to get a second passport. It's really dirt cheap. You can't beat it. Cheaper than flying to Paraguay if that's your other option. The indigenous culture, while it can be a pain in the neck, they seem to represent freedom and liberty that Americans are used to. So I doubt they'll ever sign on to whatever rules and regulations the U.S. government's trying to push on the local government here. You can even see a little bit of that evidence from Monsanto trying to take over the lands of the indigenous people here. They just didn't stand for it. We'll see what happens in the long run, though. We'll see if Big Brother can put his iron heel down here. I don't think so, but we'll see. Anyways, that's just my opinion on the differences between Mexico and Guatemala. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you.